Hello, welcome to today's Time to Talk podcast. My name is Shannon, and this is Pastor Schroeder.
Hello.
We had a few weeks off with Pastor being sick and just different things coming up like Easter and the holidays, but we're on track now, and we're just praying for good health for our pastor, and we hope that you guys are able to watch and get some stuff out of it. So today we are going to start going through the book of Genesis. So it's almost like a mini Bible study, but we're just gonna go through it, and I'm probably gonna ask my questions, and there.
Okay.
So Genesis, first book of the Bible. Why? Do you know why this one was picked as the first book of the Bible?
Yes, I actually do. Well, here's the logical explanation. We know that Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible, and he is being a leader for the people, and he's being God's voice for the people. And if I am a person who's an Israelite, I need to have questions answered, just like we need questions answered too. Questions are, who am I? Where did I come from? And Genesis answers that on where did the nation of Israel come from? The word Genesis means origin, so you get the origin of Israel. You also get the origin of the nations that are around Israel. And of course, where did all of the world come from? And then that's there too. And we get also other beginnings too, of course, the beginning of the promise of a Savior. The question also can be asked, well, why is the world so lousy? And Genesis answers that too. It's a book of origins. So actually in Hebrew, in Greek, it's named Genesis, which is origin. But in Greek, and I'm in Hebrew, it's just called in the beginning. A lot of times they will use the first words of the book as the title.
To title it? Yeah, I remember you telling me that one time.
Yeah.
So, and then, so I know I've heard somebody say once that if you can believe the first sentence of the Bible, that miracle creation, where it says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. You can believe that first statement, then any miracle in the Bible you can pretty much believe, because creation in itself is a miracle.
I would go with that totally. I think that's great. And here's the thing, though, also, when you read the book of Genesis, what you get is that creation is very purposeful and it is orderly. It appears that what happens, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And it's as if he used these things as the raw materials then to make the rest. And then he set things in order. Like a builder. Okay, here's the materials I have. Now I'm going to put the materials in order. And it shows our God to be a very orderly God. And I like what you said there. If you could believe this, you can believe anything else in the Bible. And here's the thing. I think also that you can believe, well, I think all you can do is look out the window and say that this is an amazing world. And it's a wonderful world. It's amazing how everything works out, and you have all these creation or natural laws. Where did that come from? It just didn't come by accident. What's kind of bad in regards to stuff like evolution is that strict evolution says it is all an accident. It's all just happenstance. And you just look at the world and say, wow, how could that be true? There's just too many things that work out.
I feel like with just happenstance, my own personal, unique characteristic, if it just happenstance, you have multiple dandelions, you have multiple trees, multiple animals with the same species, same look, same everything, same, body composition. But when you look at humans and people, nobody is made the same. Everyone's made differently. So I feel like that alone, to me, just humans in general, is living proof of God's work.
Yeah, I would go with that. It's amazing. And, back to the evolution thing, Christians are not against microevolution, which means that changes can happen within the species. And it goes a little bit with what you're saying, that all humans are different and there can be changes within species. We have all kinds of breeds of dogs, okay, but they're still dogs. Now, what we don't say is that species can eventually change into other species. That's where, like, no, that's not how it is. Eventually, the amoeba does not, after billions of years, turn into a human. Okay, that's what we do not believe. But changes can come within species themselves. One of the most famous things I saw in high school was this cool film where it talked about this butterfly that was indigenous to a certain area. But then what happened was a coal burning factories opened up in that area, putting all this soot in the air. All right, and it used to be all white moths in that area. But after the soot covered all the trees, now that birds could easily get the white moths. But the mutant moths that had this freak thing happen to them, they were black, they could hide. So in the end, now that species has changed from white to black moths in that area because only the black moths can survive. So we believe that a change can happen within, but not that the moth is going to turn into a bird or a bird's going to turn into a bear eventually. It's just,
Right.
No, that's not how
So
it works.
you can say that, is there evidence against the fact that evolution is a thing? Like that humans evolved from apes?
You mean in the Bible, or what are you saying?
Just saying, I know science can be in correlation with the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know evolution is a form of science, but, like, how can, trying to figure out how to word it.
Is
How
there
does-
any evidence that says evolution's a bunch of baloney,
Yes.
or that creation's a bunch of baloney?
Yes, both. Because I know with Adam and Eve, they say that so technically humans possibly originated in Israel,
Oh, okay. In the Middle East, in that
Middle
kind of
East.
area, yeah.
but I know the earliest human bone remains are in Africa.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you see,
Oh,
Israel's not that far away from Africa. Now, I think it might have been super northern Africa, but I might be wrong about that. So keep on asking what you're asking.
So it's hard for, I think, people to believe in the story of Adam and Eve when the science says that the first human bone remains were found in Africa. So is there science that can disprove evolution? As if it sounds as though it's sort of disproving, not disproving, but going against the story of Adam and Eve.
Oh, okay. Is there anything in science that can disprove evolution?
Because I know I think we've talked about it before, where I know scientists have purposefully shaved the molars of animals' remains to make them match human remains, so they could say that it's the same.
Yeah.
And that it has grown. But the way that a monkey's mouth and molars are shaped are much different than the way a human's mouth. Like the molars are not the same. But they shaved it to make it match, to make it seem like it's the same.
Yeah. A lot of times what they'll do is they'll find a bunch of bones and then assemble them, but they didn't find them assembled, and they wind up, oh, that wasn't a human. That was actually, like you say, a monkey or something like that. But in regards to that, all I know is that science has never found what you would call the missing link. Because if there really is this a jump from one species to another, there would have to be an in-between one. And they've never found it yet. And that's why they still call it the missing link. And any theories, and any time there's been something that's happened and somebody says this is the missing link, inevitably always shows that it's not the missing link. Maybe it's monkey bones. Maybe it was assembled bones that they found a whole bunch of scattered bones and they assembled it together. I know a long time ago they did something, they created something called Lucy and said this is the missing link. And wound up Lucy was just a gorilla bones. But anyways, I don't know a lot of the history of evolution. All I know is that it is a theory, and it's called a scientific theory. Now, maybe science will say that's science. Maybe somebody will say, "Oh, that's fact," but it's always been known as a theory. So it's never been something proven. It's not factual science. Now, people might say, well, this stuff isn't factual. For the Christian, it is, but that's the conviction of the Holy Spirit. But I would say, yeah, just take a look at the outside. It's gorgeous today, and it's just amazing. And how this, the writer of Hebrews, I don't know if he's dealing with creation, but he says all houses need a builder. And you could look at the world as a great house, and all houses need a builder. And God is the builder in the book of Genesis, definitely.
This is a random thought too. I know a lot of the children's books and stories, Adam and Eve, are very pale skinned.
Oh, okay.
Do you think that maybe Adam and Eve were darker skinned?
Oh, absolutely. I think if they're living in the Middle East, they're probably darker skinned. I mean, sometimes we forget that Jesus is Jewish. He probably looks like a guy who's living in the Middle East right now, so I guess we not all Jewish people are tan, but when you look at Middle Eastern peoples, they tend to be very dark people. They're in the sun a lot.
Right.
So, anyways,
just curious.
Yeah,
I think people don't associate, I think people view Christianity sometimes as just like a white person's religion, but it's all people's religion of many different colors and ethnicities and everything. So,
if you lived in Egypt, though, you would probably. There's been a thing called Coptic Christianity. I'd be interested to see what their pictures of Jesus look like.
Right.
I think the pictures we see in the United States are anglicized or Americanized pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, let's think of Santa Claus. Santa Claus is slightly different in every country. Okay, he's got a little bit of a different spin because of that country's culture.
Right.
So I don't know what else to say, but he probably looked like a very dark person, Jewish person living in the Middle East. That's all I can think of.
Okay. Alrighty. So
I can talk about a million different things about Genesis.
Yeah, why don't we go through the first chapter?
Okay. Well, we don't even have to look at it. I'm afraid if we look at it, it'll take a long time. But even in regards to that, it's going to take a long time for me.
It talks about how creation was the theme. We can just do the themes of each chapter, maybe. But so I'd say chapter 1's theme is the beginning. It talks about how God, like you said, built the house, which is the world. So would you say that could be in correlation with evolution in a sense of how, maybe not evolution, but they have proof. Do they have proof of the Big Bang Theory, or it's a theory?
It's a theory. There's just, I think their biggest thing is that they keep on saying, well, the universe is expanding. So there must have been a time when the universe was really small and it blew up and started the expansion. I don't know anything. I don't know very much about that. So, but in regards to the text, I know some people say, well, I believe that God made the world, but, he used evolution to do it. I think they're trying to have both ways here going, but I don't. A strict evolutionist, it cannot coincide with the Bible. Now, could God have used evolution to create the universe? Hey, he could have done it, but the way the text reads, that's not how it reads. How it reads is that God creates the world in a very short amount of time, and that blows people away. Evolution is the millions and billions of years.
I think God created the world in that amount of time. Right. So you or Christians should believe that the world was created in 7 days, which is our time of days, 24-hour.
Oh man, you're way ahead of the game. It says, and where do we get days from? I've had some people, even Christians, talk to me who say, "Hey, look, there's a day in there where the sun isn't created. So how can you say that maybe a day was a million years?" But the mistake of this is when a person says, well, the sun, not all these things were set up yet, and so it couldn't have been a day. Please understand that the sun and the moon, yes, we use them to measure time, but they don't create time. It's just the way we use time. In fact, the book of Genesis says, I'm putting these stars up and they're going to help keep time on the earth. But it doesn't make time. God's the one who makes time. As soon as it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, then time begins. If you go outside of that, then you're dealing with godness and eternity. But once God makes the heavens and the earth, now the clock is ticking. All right? But God's the one who creates time. Clocks and stars and moons, they keep track of time. They measure time, but they don't make time. God's the one who makes time.